framework that strikes a balance between protecting the integrity of our national heritage, cultivating sustainable growth, and supporting one of the key growth drivers of our economy. As today's conversation moves towards infrastructure, we are here to put forth a set of concrete actions to address critical issues, laying the groundwork for innovative solutions that honor the heritage passed on to us. As we seek to forge the new paradigm of responsible tourism in Greece, we invite you all to join us, and once again, let sustainability lead us to beauty.
Κυρίες και κύριοι, καλώς ήρθατε. Είναι πολύ μεγάλη μας.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure and joy to have you here for the second day of the event Reimagine Tourism in Greece, here at the hangar of the Aegean. We're all very impressed from this place, though we saw it yesterday too. And for those who see it today as well, it's not just the technical base of the Aegean and the place where crews are trained. It is the first integrated ecosystem of air transportation in Greece. This means that on the rooftop, which is about 25,000 square meters, we have special PV panels ensuring all the energy that this place needs in order to run. Protection of the environment, which is respected by this hangar, is one of our themes of discussion. We discussed about sustainability, infrastructure. The first day of the event was really productive. The Prime Minister also honored us, and he also gave us some news, especially about construction outside the city plan. We are here with eminent personalities from abroad as well in order to find a new roadmap about tourism that will include the idea of cooperation and strategy. So we're here at this, I wouldn't say conference, but meeting of eKathimerini with its partners. Aegean is our host. AIA, Attica Group, Fraport Greece, Piraeus Bank, PwC, and amongst our supporters is Grand Bretagne Hotel, Greek Hotel, Resorts of Mykonos, Travelbiz. Our cooperation is also with the Association of Greek Tourist Businesses and Metropolitan HGG for this meeting. They ensure medical services. There is also live streaming, so those who are watching us remotely, welcome. The coverage will last until the end of this day today, which is the end of the conference as well, of the meeting. And let's start with the presentation of the first panel for today, entitled Reframing the Future, the discussion on the future of Greek tourism. Mr. Yannis Paraschis, president of SETE, is invited to the floor. He has almost built this airport. He is really an expert of American and German culture. He helped a lot to bridge some gaps in our communication with our foreign partners, and Ms. Sia Kosioni, journalist. They will talk about this very important topic. The floor is yours. This is today's launch of the meeting. Good morning. Thank you, Margarita. I'd like to thank you all for your presence. I'd like to thank the organizers for the opportunity that they gave me in order to be part of this very interesting discussion. These are topics that concern us all. Thank you, Mr. Paraschos. I'm really very happy that we're here today in order to talk about the foundations for the Reimagine, or just imagine, of our tourism. Margarida made an introductory speech about this place and said some wonderful things about how this hangar was designed in the first place. Maybe we can start by that, and you can give us the perspective of this area and the new dynamic it can provide to the airport at large. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity that Kathimerini gives us in order to talk openly, but also with evidence about the future of Greek tourism. I think that everybody's presence today is important and very selected, and it has good semantics. To us, this is a place that was produced after lots of hardships and difficulties with the old Olympic Airways. As of 2009, it became an area of Olympic Airways. It never operated. Then we had various tenders. So after a lot of challenging times, even the period of the pandemic, we started thinking of future investments, and finally we created what you see today, which is the place for the hard maintenance and crew training. So after many years, we along with Aegean, we're proud that this airport has this infrastructure. But speaking of tourism, this infrastructure and the way it operates is a reply to a criticism on tourism. People say, well, tourism is all good, but it's not really an activity that gives added value to the Greek GDP. It doesn't have any multiplying effects for the economy, and that tourism is a bed, it's a long chaise at the beach. But this is the reply of what it means, what Greek tourism means. The ecosystem is hospitality, airlines, infrastructure, airports, etc. So through this positive growth, there is a mass in aviation, so that the Aegean does its hard maintenance of its aircrafts here. And many of the aircrafts that you see here, they will not only be Aegean's aircrafts, but aircrafts of other companies as well, because we want this to be a center of high expertise, high qualification, and adding value to the Greek GDP. So this is a big reply, a significant reply. We do hope for this to happen soon. Now let's start unfolding some basic points of this discussion. I will ask you in the next 30 minutes to comment on the things that were discussed yesterday by the Prime Minister when he talked with Alexis Papachelas. Mr. Mitsotakis said yesterday that we don't really care about how many, but about how much. So the figures that we have about tourist income is alerting, because we have reduced data. So are we missing out on our targets? Let's say that 2023 was the new milestone for new arrivals and most income. 34 million, over 20 billion in income. This year we're doing better in arrivals and income. For the mid-year, it's 11% more in arrivals, and we have an increase of 5 to 6% compared to the previous year with regard to income. If we see the mega trends, we see that we have less people staying longer. However, the spend per passenger is not reduced. City break also contributes a lot. Today's tourism, this year's tourism is a lot better, and the trend is 14%, as much as the airline growth. So what happened in July? Well, I don't talk only about July. I'm just saying that we have more arrivals and more income, more revenues. The Bank of Greece for July is talking about a reduction compared to last July, but we must see that yes, it is a bit alerting because it says that trends are changing. The summer might not be that popular because it's more expensive and there is bigger congestion and a lot of heat. There are heat waves. So there will be a diaspora on the months in the low seasons as well. So what we used to experience and we thought that we would do better every single year is not a given fact. So we must be very careful to value for money and to the competitivity of the product. So I hope and I consider that 2024 will be the new milestone year for arrivals and spend per passenger. But this is not a given thing. Inflation overwhelmed all economies, not only the Greek or the European, but the tourist sector adapted in this new social need. Or this was not the case because we didn't need that, because our tourism does very well on its own. Well, talking about Greeks as well, and I think the Prime Minister yesterday analyzed all the efforts that are made in order for all citizens to participate in this good, which is tourism and holidays. Well, international markets, of course, are the ones that determine the relation between value and cost. Greece still is a competitive and attractive destination. Oh, so we're still value for money. Yes, we remain value for money, and we need to consider all the time that since we're discussing on many occasions about high-end destinations, the Cycladic Islands, this is not Greek tourism. Greek tourism is on 13 regions. There is a lot of diversity on the products offered, and there's a choice for visitors. They can choose amongst a series of accommodations, products, and areas that have different tariffs. Yes, but we should say that Mykonos, Santorini, and other very popular destinations are our window, the window of Greek tourism. So how much value for money is valid there, and how important is the whole talk about this over-tourism, this overbooking things? Should we be careful about all that? Yes, we heard a lot yesterday about this topic as well. When we talk about over-tourism, because this is, I would say, a term after the pandemic, after this big rebound and the growth in Greece. Domestically, we see that there is a big growth in all tourist sizes and figures compared to Europe that is trying to reach the levels of 2019. And of course, for us, this is not the case. There is a lot of pressure exerted on many systems. We have a lot of people congested in many places where we lack infrastructure and we need to invest. There, on the other hand, we have challenges where it comes to shorter term accommodations, which strived, it grew with big strives compared to standard and classical hotel rooms. This has created different issues on infrastructure, traffic, etc. Yes, we should, but let's stay in these high-end destination things because people reasonably think that if somebody gives their money and they go to their very nice and renowned islands, but they have no roads, no water, waste is not um, picked up. They cannot really walk in the small alleys. That creates a problem. We're talking about local interventions as well, because the Prime Minister said that we don't have a problem of over tourism, but of a congestion of people for a few days or months during the year in certain specific places. I do not disagree. In SETE, we ask very specific things for specific destinations in order to protect the product. You know, in tourism, degrading the product, the tourist product for the local citizens is degrading the product itself. So managing the destination in an integrated way, and this is what we say for the DMOs, that we need an integrated management from the local government, the private sector, but also the citizens and all the people working in these specific destinations that are very popular, and they are the showcase, the windows of our tourists. We also have other challenges such as accesses for cruise ships. We have the berth allocation issues. All that has to be a priority for us. Let's go to Airbnb now. We see a social challenge there. There is the alienation of certain neighborhoods. And of course, there is a big problem of housing. I understood yesterday from the Prime Minister that some measures that were taken will keep being reviewed. And hoteliers talk about the uncontrolled short-term housing. What does the SETI say about that? Well, short-term lease of residences is a new part of the tourist reality in accommodation. What I said earlier is that we had a very rapid growth of Airbnbs in Greece. We have the same number of beds in such accommodations and in hotels. This has happened in many areas under the radar, exerting pressure in circulation, traffic, water needs, etc. So on one hand, we say that we needed to regulate and some leveling on the financial side as well. We should know what is amateur, what is an amateur, what is a professional. So measures have been taken in this regard by the government. And let me also say that from in SETE, we know that the turnover of the hotels, 900,000 hotels, is 10 billion, and from Airbnb, it's 700 million. Okay, so we see money being lost, being, disappearing. We're talking about the legality and the checks that need to be made in certain neighborhoods where we have alienation of the character or there are housing problems. We need to intervene. We're in favor of that. But on the other hand, I don't think that we must demonize Airbnbs for all the housing problems. We are 4 million people in Athens. There are many closed houses as well, so it's the Airbnbs are not the only challenge. So this topic needs a further discussion and a further management, social, financial, and other. I hear people in tourism protesting about taxes, about all the fiscal contributions that they need to pay. And I believe that you believe that, they work in August and then they have to pay for the other 11 months. Uh, the Prime Minister said that there will be no other burdens for tourism, tax burdens, and I don't know whether you believe that such a taxation for hotels should be valid for Airbnbs as well. I think that new measures are also including short-term leases. I would like to comment, however, the following. Tourism, after some deliberation on measures and initiatives regarding tourism, may support the increase of public revenues if they are there in order to improve destinations that are related to the tourist program. We know that general taxation measures without the checks and balances, when we don't know the actual results, and if they're not related to the areas where they are collected, well, we do not agree. The Prime Minister yesterday said that we have a lot of issues to deal with, public revenues, climate change, whether that is mitigation, adaptation of the impact. So there, the answer, because we're talking about 500 millions that will be collected from these new measures, and compared to the 10 billion of the hotels, maybe more with Airbnbs, where it's 5% of the turnover, so it's 20% of income before taxes. So we accept that there are problems due to climate change, and tourism is not the only sector of activity impacted and having to pay for all that. We know that in a few years we will need 2 billion annually to deal with climate change, and hopefully tourism is not going to pay the price, the whole price. So these measures are the result of should be the result of our liberation and must have this quid pro quo character. So we keep the message with regard to the 2 billion. Let's come back to spatial planning as well. Having talked about the environment as well, we've had the Prime Minister announcing a few measures yesterday. There's a concern amongst the Greek citizens, all of us who love our countries and who always seek the best possible destinations for ourselves, our families, our children to spend time. So the natural environment, can it withstand all this tourist development in many of these areas? Urban planning is an important issue. And here we have the issue of foreign investment as well. Sometimes we need to know what are the criteria for the choice of investments, how this is adapted to the needs of our national product, how all these can be linked harmonically with places of natural beauty. Well, allow me to say that right now we have under deliberation a crucial bill of law about special tourist planning, and this will be the national reference point that will finally allow us to acquire this special planning as a country, and then we'll have the local spatial planning with specific approaches. Yes, but is there time? Or we already have any reversible damage sustained? I don't think we should dramatize things to the point of seeing them as irreversible. We have some restriction of permits in certain areas of control, but let me underline that urban planning and real estate does not mean tourism. This is a different dimension that the country must deal with separately and in general. Tourism is a part of the whole process, but the out of the urban plan construction, it does not have to do with tourism. This is something that concerns our islands, and said in the special spatial urban planning. We're stricter when it comes to islands, especially, as Mr. Rico says, islands less than 200,000 square kilometers. So we're talking about a total, an integrated management that considers um, uh, eh, all the characteristics for the islands. And you need to know that most Cycladic islands are under 200,000 square kilometers. So you understand how important the issue is when we talk about sustainability as well. Let me add something. You know, yesterday I read things that were said yesterday a bit differently. We want tourism to grow, but we want sustainability as well. In SETE, we believe that this is a strategic initiative, and we cannot only ask on the other side of the table to give us infrastructure, to give us legislation, resources, money, etc. So recently we presented, and we have the first five Greek businesses participating in a program that we call Metron, in order to show the metron, the measure, the rule, and the law, if you want, by extension. It's something like a self-regulation. Yes, we're trying to do a self-regulation thing. We want local communities, of course, to participate, and the local businesses, small and medium-sized businesses. We should not only talk about revenues and arrivals, but what do we do with energy, with water, with waste? What is the social and labor footprint of tourism? Yeah, I think this is a great initiative, and it will also exert pressure, because then the state will have to do its part as well. Exactly. It gives us the argument, it gives us the national stimulus about the things that need to be done. Now, about the personnel issue.
This year we have recorded the lack of staff and personnel in Greek tourism. Why is it so? And how are you going to deal with it? By bringing over from other countries people? And how do you consider the downgrading of tourism? After the pandemic, certainly, the labor market, not just in tourism industry, but in most financial activities in Europe and elsewhere, is an issue that we need to deal with it particularly with the people in tourism, by attracting young people, by making tourism more attractive as a market for young people. For this reason, we need to activate groups of people, be them pensioners or people with special skills that need to come to join us. It is a paradox that we don't have a pool of workers in tourism in a country like Greece. Maybe we did something wrong, possibly because we don't have the correct schools. Well, tourism education is an issue to be discussed in the future, but to go deeper in the demographic problem in our country, in the Western countries in a whole, on eKathimerini, I've read the other year that the president of Spain, in line with a report of the World Bank, was discussing the fact of thousands of tourists that will be needed in Spain to cover tourism needs. So the volumes are enormous. Correct management is required, and of course social awareness. So to refer to Spain again, a very little rate of people agree with this approach that is attracting foreign migrants to the country. So this is an open issue. It is an actual challenge. Demographically speaking, it is not easy to resolve it. And indeed, we need to get well coordinated, the public and the private sector. Tourist enterprises on their side, did they deliver in the way they should? Do they have do they offer respectable living standards to the people working there, particularly in big hotels, and to pay back the work of the people? Well, as you can easily imagine, we can't have satisfied tourists unless we have satisfied staff and other and satisfied local community. So we support the state wherever, whenever it is possible and wherever it is required. The work card that was introduced and the conditions existing actually increase the wages, make the living conditions better. However, the housing of staff in areas where we have intense tourist flows is an issue that needs to be dealt, to be managed further on in Airbnb, in the hotels, and so on and so forth. We have just 3 minutes left, 2 points to discuss. Let me get back to cruises. Do we want cruises or not? We do want them, but we want them to be controlled. To have them under control, we need tools, rules. Rules are necessary. The Prime Minister referred yesterday to the infrastructures, the need for a new port on the island of Santorini. Big cruises should be given selectively access to different ports. This is a significant activity for Greek tourism. However, we need special measures, financial measures, and operational measures above all. So, well, a single factor can't resolve the problem alone. Let me put forward an example. Speaking about operational intervention, is Acropolis. You live close there, so the slots and the capacities that can be hourly tolerated by a monument are very strict. Well, the picture of Acropolis nowadays, today, this year, is far better compared to the past. Last year, we have kilometers of queues, and I would discuss that if I was there, I wouldn't wait, not even a moment. I didn't want to be in their place. Last question. You're chairman of SEPE, but you're not coming from the tourist industry. As correctly mentioned by Margarita, essentially has built the Eleftherios Venizelos airport. Well, can our airport host accept withstand such flows of tourists? No, I'm not the one that has built the airport, but my life is connected with it, as it was the case of other significant partners, because it takes at least 15,000 people to have it ready, to have it in place. Well, we are a big airport. This year will serve more than 15 million people. After September, until September, we had already 11.8 million people. We would have started earlier actions to keep everything under control. Anyway, it is important to say that we need models in terms of the tourist development of Athens. We are proud because beyond the photovoltaics we have here on the roof, Athens next year, according to our project, 2025, at this very airport shall be the first one in Europe having a net zero carbon footprint, producing in its facilities from clean resources, photovoltaics and batteries, the entire energy consumed, while the fleet shall be fully electric, excluding gas, using heat pumps, an investment of more than 50 million euros. And of course, we have more investments in line exceeding 800 million euros. So this is the way we are going to contribute. The entire Greek tourism contributes in the investment gap in place. So thank you. That was a very optimistic message to conclude our discussion.
Να ευχαριστήσουμε τον κύριο.
Thank you, Mr. Paraschis. Thank you, Sia, for this nice discussion. I keep 3 points: the revenues, the numbers, the correlation between the two, because this is the bottom line of the discussion, self-regulation, and the sort of the returns, an industry which supports the Greek economy. What can it give back to the Greek financial status? Now, to better understand and come to an agreement between ourselves, all parts and all parties be on the same line, on the same path. We need data. So we have with us Mr. Leonidas Papayouannou, partner of PwC, head of the public sector of the company, who shall put forward a very useful analysis on sustainability, infrastructure. This is what was discussed yesterday. That was the main topic. And entrepreneurship in relation to the roadmap for tourism. So I would like to invite Mr. Papayouannou and kindly ask him, after finishing its lecture, to remain on the panel for the discussion. For a short chat.
Καλημέρα και...
Good morning, and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to present the PwC analysis on tourism. This presentation shall be in Greek. However, we'll have an English version on the screen to help English speakers. Thank you once again. PwC has an opinion on Greek tourism, monitoring and analyzing Greek tourism. Thanks to the cooperation and partnerships with the public and the private sector, we believe that in the past 10 years, in terms of tourist development, we have contributed on our part. So why is it important, this industry? Needless to explain it, it is clear on the figures. You see clearly that the GDP, the contribution in the Greek GDP, 34% direct and indirect contribution, and 400,000 people employed in the industry. Those figures are diachronic, are there for years, resisting the different crises. So this industry appears to be a long-term and a resilient one in Greece. 9 are the challenges in the industry, covering different current topics and issues as well. However, let us see what are the perspectives and the prospects. Let us have a forward-looking. Tourism, first of all, has a geographical is a geographical destination, and when the largest volume is concentrated in specific regions, well, issues are generated that need to be resolved. The visitors, of course, are visiting cities, the city breaks, and areas that have sea and sun. Those two models require mass tourism, and of course this doesn't favor individualized tourism. So it is hard to consider a development with this model, with a well-balanced and fair course, so that all regions may converge to the 5 most touristic areas and regions in Greece. Second challenge, the time frame, the timeline of tourism. 7 out of 10 tourism arrive in the time period between June and September. So this seasonality appears to impact on the employment model. The well-known 5 or months where we have people working and all other works on ads from the Greek state. And some other people that consider their income from tourism as an additional one to their occupation. Challenge number 3, congestion of traffic in specific times and area, which increases the needs of in terms of infrastructure. Apologies. Well, this seasonality appears to be improving because we are having a 2% increase during winter months. So the visitors that visit our country during those months increase the overall number of tourists by 2% in 2024 compared to the previous years, which is good. However, we're far beyond from the average of other Mediterranean countries, which is close to 25%. Now let's come to infrastructure. Increased traffic during specific time periods and geographical areas where we have increased needs for infrastructure. the last survey demonstrates that 60 more were needed that are already under construction. However, more than 22 million euros remain unexploited and are in course of construction. Well, we wanted to see the infrastructures moving forward faster so that we do not lose the developmental momentum of this particular industry. Challenge number 4, labor force. There we are. In the past period, more than 10 jobs remained vacant despite the efforts on the part of the businesses. Seasonalities is then a problem, a challenge, but it's not only that. The working conditions, the high cost of housing the staff makes the situation far more difficult, reducing the demand on the part of the labor market. This offer has both qualitative and quantitative parameters. Some professions are hard to be found, cooks and so on and so forth, that in specific geographical area, well, it's hard to fill in. Competition, challenge number 5. Speaking about competition in our country and into the tourist industry, well, we compare basically our country with other Mediterranean and Balkan countries. The share of Greece improves from 0.45. We go to 0.46 from 19 to 23. However, the corner of the planet where we are active and we live increases its share over in whole. So our increase in terms of share is not can't be compared to the traditional industries of Croatia, Turkey, or Spain. Another interesting point is relevant to the contribution, the last column of the table, of the revenue coming from tourists in the overall GDP. This demonstrates the significance of tourism and all relevant activities, both for Greece, Cyprus, and Croatia. Of course, this is not as high as it is in Turkey, Italy, and Spain, where it doesn't exceed 6.5%. Speaking again about competition, qualitatively speaking, our country becomes all the better. The Travel and Tourism Development Index shows that we have increased by 5 positions over Croatia and Turkey, countries that are our competitors, to put it this way. There are parameters that indicate a significant improvement. Those are relevant to transportation, air transportations, and so on and so forth. However, we need to look into other parameters which appear to be negative. Labor force, competitiveness in terms of prices, port of infrastructure, and the social impact. All of the above are expected to impact on the sustainability of the demand itself, the tourist demand. Challenge number 6. New social groups that get into tourism, different profiles, new needs, new challenges for tourism, and new opportunities. The elderly, the third age, and young people get dynamically into the equation. We see people that have a specific preference to something different in terms of environment, natural environment, the relation and the impact on local communities. All the above is an opportunity for the industry to explore them. However, more groups get into the equation. People that do not consider our country just for vacation, but as a place where they can work or study. Other different profiles, different demands, different challenges for the Greek tourist industry. Challenge number 7. the important obstacle in adopting sustainable practices from on the part of the enterprises. The environment, energy saving, sustainability, particularly for very small and small enterprises, is not a critical success factor. It is a critical survival factor. Some sustainability criteria where small enterprises are called to comply with generate problems for those enterprises. The cost is the main problem as recorded and as stated by the entrepreneurs themselves, which is further enhanced by the seasonality, which blocks the businessmen to proceed with further investments. Challenge number 8. Climate change and extreme phenomena. You can see the figures on the screen which represent phenomenon in the 5 different regions that bear the major tourist load and are 30% higher during this decade compared to the previous one. Thus, they become more intense. It is clear, we can easily understand, and we're not speaking about earthquakes, we're speaking about wildfires, floodings, and for this reason, the businesses needed to have a plan and the infrastructures required to deal with them. And the state, of course, must have a management readiness to cope and meet such emergencies. The last challenge, the geopolitical developments and the macroeconomic financial environment. Well, we can influence and change this factor very little. However, it appears that tourist businesses in Greece are quite resilient and adaptable. And the conditions that we've experienced in the past years, be it the Ukrainian war, the migration crisis, the challenge with Turkey, influence very little our industry. So 9 challenges and 4 recommendations. More strategic intervention, I would say, and not isolated intervention. And we'll consider them in detail. Promotion of an alternative destination experience, expanding in time and geographically the tourist product, while promoting the authenticity of such experience. There's a prerequisite to adopt sustainable practices for the improvement of the quality of local communities while maintaining the natural wealth of our country. Proposal number 2, activation of the destinations themselves, of the authorities, of the institutional bodies in place. The goal is to have the final communities involved in the specific area. And not only this, the goal there is that the bodies themselves undertake to implement the infrastructures that do not exist. We need to focus on the strong local points and promote the local culture by promoting the cultural natural heritage to achieve sustainability. Those shall inevitably lead to a well-targeted outcome for specific groups that are involved in tourism. Proposal number 3. Design and acceleration and financing of sustainable tourism projects. For this reason, we need to have a maturation and monitoring mechanism, a mechanism that will accelerate the implementation of those projects that are in needed tourism. Exploring part of the resilience and of cruises, of course, is a prerequisite to have such a mechanism in place. Proposal number 4, last but not least, and similarly important, which was mentioned yesterday by the Prime Minister, involving the quantitative and qualitative enhancement of the staff involved upon to access immediate improvement of the working condition more incentive for the enterprises, better funding of labor itself, and more controls. And beyond that, because we need to highlight tourist education as a national priority, increasing the number and the quality of programs in place. Tourism must promote a high and educate a high-skilled staff, young people who wish to have a career that may support their life. The benefits shall be multiple and long-term. So there we are, 9 challenges and 4 strategic inventions for tourism from PwC. And thank you very much.
Να ευχαριστήσουμε ιδιαίτερα τον κύριο Παπαϊωάννη.
I would like to thank Mr. Papaioannis, who will stay here on stage because he will be part of an interesting discussion. If somebody could summarize what he said, only one word would suffice. We can't have 2 speeds with regard to anything: geography, time allocation of arrivals, job opportunities. Wherever we have 2 speeds, there is a gap, and we need to see how we can bridge it. For all that he said to us, apart from Mr. Papaioannou and Ms. Maria Gatsu, the General Director of SETE, whom I would like to invite on stage, the moderator is Apostolos Magiriadis from ERT. Thank you for being here and helping us. Thank you, Margarita. I'd like to thank eKathimerini for this organization, giving me the opportunity to talk about the challenges of tourism. I like your summary, Mr. Papaioannou: 9 challenges and 4 recommendations. I believe that we have the opportunity for one first comment about what Mr. Papaioannou said, and then we will specify. We will go in depth to certain things. Maybe we hear some more ideas. Good morning. Thank you very much for the invitation. Leonidas, thank you so much for this very rich, abundant analysis. Another framework from what we heard yesterday and after the research of Balks. We heard that 86% of the people believe that tourism is very important, as well as its contribution. We saw over 50% saying that the strategy for tourism is at the right track, right direction. So we're talking about another 50% that doubts about the direction or believes that there are many things to be done. And then we saw 67% saying that they are concerned about overcongestion of people geographically speaking and time-wise. This is very showcased in the analysis of PwC. We saw 5 regions, so 5 months a year, and 90% of the arrivals and of all the revenues. This means that the other 8 out of the 13 have a lot of margin for development, for growth. Yes, they have 10%. And we have a role as a private sector in creating targeted products. Plus, another thing that comes out of these 9 challenges and proposals, and I would like us to see these is the management and operation of destinations. This has to do with infrastructure, whether heavy or soft. But these are issues that we need to see, and they have to do with the DMOs for the management and promotion. This issue has been touched upon lightly yesterday and today, and I think we can go in depth. Okay, let's go in depth in the four proposals of PwC. We heard the challenges for the geopolitical ones. I don't know what we can do, but let's see our product more. So extension in time and geography of tourism. Who will undertake the discussion and the initiative?
At the regional level, do we accept the head of region, the governments, to tell us such is the rate of BP Rosso, and our goal is to have it twice higher in the years to come? What is the mechanism? Mr. Zorich mentioned yesterday the need for a national plan. Of course, this alone is not enough. And of course, certainly the role of regions, the role of local bodies is critical at this point, because necessarily they need to undertake the responsibility of implementation and their role in the design as well. There is their knowledge, their view regarding the needs, the local needs, the needs of the community must play a role in terms of the planning. We cannot impose a central plan. The role of local communities and local bodies is critical. So indeed, we wish to have their involvement of the central administration as well. However, above all, the local communities, the local enterprises active in the region, and they need to have a cooperation between themselves so that we have a clear way ahead. Otherwise, we'd be working instinctively in terms of entrepreneurship, which cannot produce 100% sustainable development. Mr. Gazio? Well, I would like to add the following and remind that SETE, via Incenter in 2021, has elaborated a national plan for tourism with an horizon until 2030 by defining specific objectives and ways. A national plan which was accompanied by an action plan for all 13 regions in the country, analyzing 36 destinations or clusters and how they can build a strategy, a work that SETE has proposed, has presented first to the government, other competent bodies, and visited the 13 regions and presented them in detail, all those plans. We delivered them essentially, and we are still in 2024, and we're still at the same position. Of course, we've got in some regions some kind of organization and higher interest regarding the implementation of part of those plans. Well, private investments are required, of course, and many more tools. And the example of Thessaloniki is typical. Last week, we met with Marketing Greece and Incentive in Thessaloniki, and we've discussed, and they've proposed an update of the plan to consider whether they could come up with the financial facilities to proceed with implementation in their destinations. So there are things in place. This is the positive part, but we need to be determined and active. I am from Thessaloniki. We are a bit late, but we do deliver somehow. Let me go to the second challenge and the ownership of infrastructure. The term ownership reminds me the Troika when the government was asked to acquire the ownership of reform. Ms. Eleni Varviciotti was in Brussels and is very familiar with this term, so I don't know to what extent we'll be getting into a regionalistic concept and approach in terms of infrastructure, or in reality we are referring to something far more going beyond the strict borders of a region and involves the entire national growth. All infrastructure and all projects are not identical in terms of complexity and importance. There are national plans as VOAC, a national project which is long behind schedule. It is in an implementation stage. However, it required national plan and funding. Let us see the management in waste management project. There we are automatically at a regional level, so the authorities must contribute, must work together. So indeed, both levels need to be in place to have a better planning and a better outcome. Mrs. Gatsiou, let me add on the basis of the analysis you had on earlier, Leonidas. From the project in progress, most of them are relevant to the communities, the local communities. They are welfare projects where the destination is highly important. They're relevant to energy, water, road networks. Mr. Vasilakis yesterday referred to a heavy and soft infrastructure. So one part is relevant to hard, heavy infrastructures, ports, airports, roads. Castelli project, we all know that it has an horizon up until 2028. However, until that time, what shall be the case in the existing airport? Maybe we could put forward some softer infrastructure to host our visitors until the final airport is ready and open. And those projects do not involve high fundings, and this is connected with the decisions made. Maria gives me a pass to speak about priorities and how we prioritize, because currently money is not enough to start and have all projects completed. However, for this reason we need to prioritize them, and the central administration there needs to play a role, however, by listening the region so that the final project meets the local needs that are better known to the local administration. Let us connect your proposal with some challenges in terms of resilience, referring to the climate crisis, which even for small enterprises requires on its part to have a plan and be prepared to implement it. In Kefalonia, in the Ianos disaster, during the Ianos disaster that has destroyed everything while crossing the area, how could that be implemented? And this is only an example to indicate the difference of scale between scales. Very correctly, the scale of the phenomenon create the needs themselves. However, all enterprises, despite and irrespective to its size, has a responsibility in being prepared to meet such challenge, which is valid for us as well, for our houses. So depending on the scale, we need to be ready. I referred it earlier that there's a national and local level, and there the state needs to be ready. For this reason, a strong coordination mechanism is required to mitigate the impact of disasters. Indeed, nationally and regionally speaking, depending on the destination, on the phenomena, We are very familiar, unfortunately, with such phenomena, the disasters in Thessaly, and we have in place a climate crisis tax that is imposed and asked by the industry. It is collected locally, and such money are given for the infrastructure and prevention against those phenomena. Now, the fourth proposal, which involves the labor force, the human resources, 2 out of 10 jobs remain vacant. Well, how would those jobs, those vacancies be covered? How the working conditions can be controlled? And particularly speaking about seasonality. During my vacation, I'm in Cyprus. I met a young person. He was working in a taverna. He was working there. He was fully pleased, working long hours, but well, he had collected the money he needed for a year. So this is the model. You referred to a stronger education of the people involved in the industry, which is a quite complex issue. It is worth being discussed, however, despite all those difficulties. We believe in a shift in the employment in tourism, and we want the labor force employed in the industry to be improved in terms of skills, knowledge, in terms of everything required to be well equipped, and we wish to have it in blue collar stuff as well by improving the education, its education. I know that this is not an easy task. We come up with solutions overnight because of the pushing needs. But instead, this is a win-win situation when we are speaking and we're referring to a young student from Ioannina. Those, however, studying tourism must and have consciously and have made this this choice consciously need to be ensured of a decent career. So we need a different educational level, different quality of education to improve the overall quality of the products of the industry. Indeed, this is so, and this is not a phenomenon only in Greece, I would say. This is an international challenge because tourism is seasonal everywhere, and it is considered as such. The staff is working for 5-6 months, and then they would either switch to a different job or they would take the unemployment ad. So upskilling and reskilling need to be considered in the long term, not just consider the numbers, what rate is and what percentage is missing from the actual number required. Some speakers earlier discussed it, and still there are 2 points is on the shoulders of the private sector, its responsibility, where fortunately many things have changed in terms of remuneration, housing of the staff, and there's another part because the employment model must change. There's a strategy is required. Well, the work must be subsidized instead of having unemployment subsidized, and consider education, knowledge, and how we can provide such education from very early stages, and while improving the academic level. 3 minutes left. Just a question for the two of us, for the two of you. We always like titles, and I've come across more than 100 articles in how will become will come on the top of the European list and will become champions in the economy? Do we want to become the Florida of Europe, the European Florida, or this is a model that we need to reject and deploy our own features? So, when the market has a trend, it is good that the businesses exploit it at its maximum. If the trend is towards young people, this is where we need to head. If it is towards the elderly people, we need to work accordingly. If it's snorkel, again accordingly. We must not miss not a single choice. Businessmen, be them more or less organized, have been able to grasp the trend of the market, and until now they have been exploiting it. So if the trend is to the left, we need to go left. If it's to the right, we need to go to the right. Your comment, please. Well, I do not know whether I want us to become Florida. If this is our goal. We are a unique destination. Greece has its own features. The sea is identical to our picture, our hospitality. So this is what we need to develop. This is our differentiation point, the diversificator, I would say, and of course promote other forms that may meet the needs of other trends actually in place. Snorkeling, diving, experiences, activities, different forms of tourism in order to exploit all our resources in all 13 regions and not just the 5 ones attracting more people. Without the above, having as and the latter cannot be interpreted as a wish of having all 13 regions as touristic destinations. So just a few seconds left. Thank you for the discussion.
Λοιπόν, εξαιρετικά διαφωτιστικά αυτά που ακούσαμε ως τώρα.
So now you have a 20-minute break for coffee, because afterwards we have investments, sustainability, technology, the Prime Minister of Bhutan with an alternative model for tourism, and many other very interesting things. So 20 minutes for coffee to your right. See you later.